She had that western feel, knocks me back on my heels, playing my heart like a pale steel. Her kiss is red hot like Baker's.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Bear Archery Podcast. That song might be playing the entire time because things got a little western here in Idaho there for a minute. But I am joined today by Joel Dawson, best mustache in the game, and Waylon Herzig, owner of Ace Outfitters. We had an incredible week here in Idaho, and I'll just say this. It was the best week of hunting that I think you could have ever had without killing an animal. So we're here just to kind of recap the hunt, tell some fun stories, and some things that I learned along the way, some things that I figured out along the way, and just have a good time. I do want to give a shout out. We talked a couple weeks ago with Aaron Amber, owner of Nexus, and we kind of gave our rundown of our 2.0 gear. And I can say this was the first week. I ran it in spring bear season, but this was the first week that I really just pushed it to the limits, and I am blown away by 2.0. So go check out 2.0. In my opinion, I mean, I pushed it about as hard as I could, and it worked in every way. And you'll hear throughout the stories, of kind of what we went through on the week, throughout the week, and how the gear worked. But let's dive in and have a good time.
With over 90 years of innovation, Bear Archery continues pushing toward the goal of founder Fred Bear, making archery accessible for all. Fred believed the history of the bow and arrow were the history of mankind, and everyone should immerse themselves in the outdoor experience. Welcome to the Bear Archery Podcast, where the mission is simple: to hunt, grow, and inspire others.
Guys, if you have been around archery much at all, then you've probably heard the name Lancaster. And for good reason. Lancaster Archery is well known worldwide, and they have an incredible reputation worldwide. Why? Because they're archery experts on all things archery, from bow hunting to 3D shooting, from recurves to compounds. If it's archery, they not only sell the products, but they know the products. Guys, Lancaster is your one-stop shop for all things bear archery, every compound, recurve, all the equipment. But outside of bear, they have everything you need, from arrows and broadheads to bow building equipment, everything. Guys, Lancaster Archery is a name that you can absolutely trust. They put out some of the best information that you can find just about anywhere. So I would highly encourage you to not only shop at lancasterarchery.com because you can trust in the products you're buying, because they know about the products that you're buying, but also I would highly encourage you to check out all of their resources, not only on their website, but on their YouTube channel, because they are a wealth of knowledge on all things archery. So guys, check out Lancaster Archery. They're your one-stop shop, not only for all of the equipment that you could ever possibly need that's archery related, but also all of the information that you would ever need that is archery related. LancasterArchery.com. Go check them out. All right, Waylon. So the week started off real exciting. Day one, we got straight into them, and you got aggressive day one. Like, you just dive bombed right into the elk.
Yeah, day one, we just went out, did a little calling, located some elk, dropped straight to them. Threw out a few bugles, a few cow calls. Did some secret stuff. Can't talk about.
Now, but you mentioned along the way, you're like, I normally don't do this because it's really hard to just drop into elk. But, I mean, so what made you make that decision?
Well, the wind was right. We just got the wind right and then dropped in. And the bull was wanting to play pretty bad, so we made a move on him. And you had him at, 8 yards within 10 minutes?
Yeah.
It happened pretty fast.
And that's one thing I learned quick, like right off the bat, because we heard that elk, and I immediately just thought to myself, I'm like, dude, I said, what is he, like 200 yards away? And you're like, no, 60, set up. It sounds like they're forever away. I mean, there's so many ridges and canyons and valleys.
Yeah, he just happened to be right over a ridge from us, and he sounded a lot further than he was, but his second bugle was close, and so I knew he was coming, but he was coming in fast, so we didn't have much time to set up. Everything was kind of rushed. Could have gotten a better position probably for you, but we didn't have the time. So looking back on it, there's not a lot we could have done because we thought he was further than he was, but You just needed to take one more step.
Yep.
You'd have had about an 8 to 10 yard shot.
Yeah, I was standing right behind a tree, and at this point, when he was 8 yards, all I could see was one antler. Couldn't see his head, couldn't see his body, couldn't see anything. But at 8 yards, he rips off, and I'm like, oh, my Lord. It's one of those bugles you felt in your bones. Like, you could feel it. And just an insane encounter. And I remember just thinking, like, if this is the first 4 hours of day one, like, this is going to be a crazy week. And it was a crazy week. I mean, we had an incredible hunt. And it's one of those things that's hard to understand. Like, well, how did you have a good hunt if you didn't kill anything? But, like, so many close encounters, so many close calls. Day 3 got real Western. We'll get there in a minute. But it was just a phenomenal first encounter. And we ended up chasing that bull. We're going to get to Joel's day one here in a minute. But we ended up chasing that bull. Just so everybody knows, this is kind of how it worked. One guide, 2 hunters all week long. So I was with Waylon. Luckily, I wasn't with Joel because he just kind of beats his hunters to death. But
that's what I'm paid to do.
He likes to hunt hard.
that's what I'm paid to do.
Yep.
And so we ended up chasing that bull for what? Like 4 hours maybe?
Yeah, probably 4.5 hours. He just, every time we thought he'd bed, we'd throw out a few more cow calls and he'd come back in.
Yeah.
He kept coming back and forth. And I think we had him about 60 yards, 2 hours after the first encounter.
Yeah. We'd stop and then he'd get curious why we stopped and come back to us. And then he'd run and come back to us. And
action-packed first day, you'd say.
yeah, it was insane.
It was amazing.
We dropped.
That's good elk hunting right there.
And we dropped 3,000 feet in like 3 hours. I mean, just constantly chasing that bull downhill. And it was real. We were in thick stuff. And so once we get out, we realized it's been raining all day and we had to walk back in the rain. That sucked. But
it was a long first day, but it was well worth it.
yeah. And so we get back to camp just expecting, like, you know, and I think I even remember saying it. I think I remember saying somebody killed a bull today. Like, it was just too hot. Somebody got a shot and killed a bull in the other group. Joel, how was your day one?
We did all right. It was a little slow getting in there. We got in there. There was lots of sign in there, but everything was so wet. I think they were just moving around us primarily, and we didn't have much chance to get into. We could never put any eyes on anything, but there was a lot of fresh tracks, and
Yeah.
I think we were just pushing them around. We were in some really heavy timber, so we were just having trouble catching up to them.
Yeah, day one was a little slower for you guys, but then day 2 got chaotic for you guys.
We had some excitement on pretty much every day the rest of the week. After
Yeah.
that, we got a good week.
So day 2 is pretty slow for us. I don't think we that was the day we packed into the spike camp. Didn't really hear or see any bulls.
No, we kind of got away from that group of bulls. Maybe the hot cows weren't over where we were, but we just kind of checked a new area. It's the peak of the rut. I mean, this week has been amazing. We hit the timing perfect.
Yeah.
But where we went, maybe we couldn't hear him from where we were, but it wasn't real action-packed on day 2
Yeah.
for us.
So one thing I want to get to your day 2 in a second because you guys had an exciting day too. But I want to kind of try to unpack this for a second because there was every bull that we saw, called, seen, heard didn't have any cows.
Right.
And these were bigger, mature bulls. I mean, they should have had cows.
Yeah, we didn't run into many raghorns, so there's a pretty big group of mature bulls in here and 2 or 3 cows here and there, and they don't have their cows yet, which is really rare for this time of year.
So did that make it harder or?
Made it a little easier to call these bulls in. And once they have those cows, they're real hard to call in.
Yeah.
So everything was just lined up perfectly for this week.
So basically, if I'm understanding it correctly, we hit it to where they're just starting to rut. Maybe a couple cows are in heat, but they hadn't gotten their cows yet.
Right. So the majority of the ruts, next week should be good too, because the rut's just starting real good. So they should be gathering cows and getting in those big groups right now.
Yeah, which we were excited the whole way here because, you know, I was talking to guys who had just gotten back from hunts or, you know, live in areas with elk, and they're like, you're timing it perfectly. Bulls are just firing up. Like, it's going to be a stellar week. And it was. I mean, it was an incredible week.
Weather's right. It cooled off. It even snowed before you guys got here. It rained a couple days. It's getting down to freezing every night. So that's perfect.
Yep.
Cows start coming into heat. Rut's moving fast.
All right, Joel's day 2.
Day 2, we dropped in and could hear some below us, so we just tried to sneak in on them. And when we got down there, they just let us walk. I'm sure it was a bull, and I believe there was a couple cows with him, and they let us walk past them, and we got just past them, and then they tore off through the brush, and we tried to set up and get in on them, and we spent the whole day chasing them around. So
now this
we could
day
never
you
get
actually,
in real close.
You actually spotted a couple this day, right?
We did spot a couple cows, and then we did get glass on a couple bulls that day as well.
All right. So one thing that I heard from the other guys about a frustration from day 2, which they figured out why, but at the time they're like, we hear bulls. Why are we not going
Right.
after them? So what makes you decide like we're not dropping in on these bulls? Like,
I that's always the big decision for me, is whether I'm going to be aggressive or I'm going to be patient and wait on them. And primarily the area where I was in on the second day is we were hearing these bulls really crystal clear. That's because they were on the other ridge from us, and we didn't have the time to get to where they were going to be at. A lot of times in our area here, the bulls that are closer to us, you don't hear them quite as well because they're muffled by the ridges that are right next to you and the timber that's right next to you. So we weren't able to get, the bulls that we were hearing the best are the bulls that were actually the farthest away.
which is just crazy to me. Like, I mean, I get it now that I've done it. I get it, but because last time we were here, man, I came way too early. I think I came in on the 3rd.
Yeah,
September
we had
3rd.
fires too.
Fires everywhere. Bulls just weren't firing off. I think I heard one bugle all week last time.
That was tough hunting that week.
Yeah,
Real
oh my
tough.
gosh. And this week was a different kind of tough. I mean, we pushed the limits hard every day.
Yeah, we knew where the elk were. They were bugling, so we just kept hunting hard. It was great.
Yeah.
We didn't have to search for elk. We knew where they were, just trying to make a play on them every day.
Yeah, there's multiple bulls bugling every day, so you didn't know which way they were going to come from. I think it was the bigger problem was having to set up and play the wind, and not knowing which way they were going to come from, because there was
Right.
we were
Bulls
every time
everywhere.
I was in there was
It's a good
multiple
problem to
bulls there.
have. Real good
Yeah, there's
problem to have.
multiple bulls,
So
playing
I
the
don't-
wind was really hard for me.
I don't know who the best one to cover this is, but one thing that I think we all three realized is like it's really easy to understand thermals in Kansas because it's perfectly flat. I mean, they're either rising or dropping. But you get down in there and the sun's hitting that ridge, and it's your thermals are dropping and sucking every which way. And at what point do wind direction and thermals collide? And at what point does the wind outdo the thermals, and at what point does the thermals outdo the wind? I mean,
Well, in that timber like that, it heats up a lot slower. So if you're on an open ridge, thermals are going to change quicker, of course. Like as we waited in the timber, we had a couple bulls below us. We tried to wait for the thermals, and it was so cold in that timber that the thermals didn't change for hours after
Yeah.
they should have. So we ended up taking a nap in there right above the bulls.
that was day 4, I
Yeah.
believe.
It was.
And we
But-
can't skip day 3 because that's where things got absolutely
Day 3 was
insane.
fun. A lot of fun.
So, Joel, what was your day 3 like? Because ours will be quite a long story, maybe.
Our day 3, we started out low and then worked our way up into them, and then we were able to get into a couple different bulls, and we had them close within inside 100, a couple 60, 70 yards, but we couldn't get them to clear the brush, and couldn't get them to commit to close right in, and they wanted to play the game, but they didn't want to play it bad enough.
Yeah. So, what do you think causes that? I mean, because again, I'm still trying to learn all this stuff and figure all this stuff out. What could we have done differently? I mean, is there anything you could have done differently? I mean,
Some of those bulls, you got to decide on which one is willing to come in or not. You got to decide whether he's just keeping track of you. He's bugling, he's answering you, but is he just keeping track of where you are because he wants to move away with his cows, or is he interested in coming in? That's what you got to decide as a guide is this bull willing to come in? You can usually tell if he's responding to cow calls and bugles that he's willing to come in. If he's only responding to one or the other and not moving, you can kind of tell he's keeping track of you. And if you try to move in, he's going to bugle his way away from you.
that's one thing, and I think I told Aaron this was, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that a DIY hunter makes is they hear a bugle
Yes.
and they immediately try to drop in on that bull. They immediately think, well, there's a bugle, let's go kill that bull.
Well, DIY hunter does a lot of bugling just to locate. And when you do that, everybody gets excited because you bugle and that bull answers you. Well, he's not necessarily interested. He's just keeping track of you and make sure you're not coming after him.
Right. Which is what I learned about on day 1. I figured that out because like he would bugle, respond to us, and then he would move away. Like he didn't even want to. But then when he'd stop, he'd say, why are they not coming anymore? And then he'd come back. I mean,
Which that bull probably has cows. I mean, that would be my guess. We can't see him in that thick timber, but I'd guess he has cows and he doesn't want to get them stolen. So he's keeping track of us.
yeah. So a lot of times, like when you're calling, a bull calls, he has no interest in actually playing the game with you. He just wants to know where's that bull at all
Yep,
times.
Exactly.
Yeah, because all the competition is up there. He's got to keep track of himself and everyone else that's on the mountain. He's not, it's not just the hunter. There's all these other bulls that are trying to come in there,
Right.
and that want to fight or, take his cows or whatnot to go along with that. So,
He just thinks you're competition. So he's keeping track of you.
So if you were to lay out like the biggest tips or the biggest mistakes that you think the DIY hunter could fix and change? I mean, because a lot of people that are listening to this are going to be DIY elk hunters. What do you think that like the biggest mistakes they make are, and how can they fix those?
Don't be too aggressive. Like
Yeah,
as a guide,
definitely got to be more patient.
as a guide, like we know when we've had lots of years of experience. You got to be patient. Being patient isn't what DIY hunters want to do. They hear a bull, they want to go after it. Well, being patient and trying to listen to that bull, see what he's doing, see if he's actually interested, see if he comes your way at all, then make a move on him. Get the wind right. I mean, the wind is your hunt.
Yeah, and I think for me too, because I'm a very slow going hunter. You know, I'm not a big caller. I don't like to call a lot. I like them to hear me coming and not, hear me moving through the timber, but not necessarily hear me calling. They know I'm there, but they don't.
That might be the biggest mistake too, is everybody tries to sneak. If you try to sneak in on an elk, they don't like that. Elk make a lot of noise when they come in most of the time. So
Yeah,
if
all
you
the
make a lot of
predators,
noise, you
all
don't
the
even have
predators
to
are
call.
hunting. Everything that's trying to kill them on the mountain is trying to eat them.
You don't
And
have
it's
to
all
call your way
sneaky.
in. You can just stomp your feet and, make noise coming in so they know you're coming in. Anything that sneaks, they don't like.
Yeah, just like yesterday, we were tromping out of the woods, just heavy footed, just going straight uphill, and we walked right up on a cow and a calf yesterday, 40 yards off.
They usually wait. Even if they hear you coming, they're going to wait to see what it is. But
Yeah,
that's
'cause
that last
they
little
weren't
distance.
they weren't scared until they smelled us, and then their wind
Yeah.
got in their face, and then they blew out of there. But
And that's one thing I remember even saying to Waylon, like sometimes just walking through the woods is you calling to the elk. Like you
Yep.
are.
Oh yeah, they know they're there.
You're calling just by walking.
Yeah, they
Like,
hear, smell, see so much better than we do. It's
All right, so Joel, you're a big cow caller.
I am a cow caller. I don't bugle very rarely.
What makes you do that?
I don't know. I think I just have better luck.
He's doing what's worked for him in the past.
I'm doing what works for me. Bugling for me has not worked as much. I have where bugling is more times than not has pushed them away than it has brought them to me. Where cow calling has worked way more for me than bringing them in.
That gets in your head when you're calling too. Like, well, I've bugled it before. Too many times maybe, and they push the bull away. Cow calls usually don't push a bull away.
And that too with public property too. You got to consider, animals getting call shy or something, too. Because I mean, they hear every, Tom, Dick, and Harry coming down the mountain's going to blow a bugle, and just blowing a bugle like a flute, and they hear that all the time. They're not going to.
Knowing when to bugle is a big part of it too.
So, do you think it's more of like, because if you're cow calling, even a bull that has a cow is thinking to himself, like, I'm going to go pick up those extra cows. Like, I'm going to go.
Right. And now when I'm going through there, I mean, I'm probably, us walking through the woods is probably louder than my cow call. I mean, I cow call really quiet. I try to be as quiet as I can when I cow call because I don't want every bull to hear me. I just want the one that's listening and paying attention to where I'm at. I'm only trying to, interact with that one bull at a time.
Gotcha. Day 3 was insane. It started off really slow. So again, we were going to try a new area. We changed hunters to Aaron Zeish, one of my best friends. And so we had Aaron with us, and we're going to just go try a new area. And literally in the first 5 minutes, he looks at me and he's like, he's called more in the first 5 minutes than Joel's called all day of the whole other 2 days. So we go to a new area, the lake area, and things were slow. I didn't hear anything, but you had found a couple bulls in there a couple days before. And so
we kind of knew they were there, so we went after those. And I think with the full moon that they've been running at night a lot. So
because this was the first clear morning. The other 2 mornings had been real overcast, real foggy, so this was the first clear morning. And so we go to the new area, and it just started off really slow. And so we sat down and started a fire. And Aaron's a really aggressive hunter. Like, Aaron doesn't want to take 5 minutes to sit down. He just wants to run and go.
That's just his mentality, though. He don't sit down 5 minutes at home.
Right.
He has ADD for sure.
So I think it was killing him to sit and start a fire.
He didn't like it. He's like, what are we doing?
Well, he needed some extra charcoal, for some face paint. But other than that, that's all he really needed.
So
talk about a guy that's taking charcoal out of the fire, rubbing it on his face for face paint. So
yeah, and it worked. I mean, hey, you couldn't see him.
It looks good.
I lost track of him like 7 times. I'm like, where'd Aaron go?
He did blend very well.
Yeah. So we sat down and started a fire, and I think we had even discussed this. We're like, does this fire really even affect the animals at all? They hear fires all the time. They see fires all the time. Wildfires, campfires, whatever. And so we were sitting there, and the biggest tip I can give you, and we talked about this afterwards, is always be hunting.
Always be ready. If you're sitting down, you made a bunch of noise getting there, always have an arrow nocked, always be ready. Because when you quit calling and you sit down, it makes them curious to where'd those elk go.
Yeah.
I just heard a bunch of elk over here. Where are they now?
Now they're
So
sitting around that fire.
They like
That's
to sneak
weird.
in. Now there's a campfire.
Now they started a fire. They're stopped. That's weird. No, and so, but we never started talking. We always stayed quiet. We always, even when we were walking around doing stuff, we always stayed quiet, never talked. And we were just sitting around a fire. And here's one thing I can tell you about Aaron is he's very aware of what's going on. And he sees a tree just completely bend over. He sees a little cedar just almost touch the ground and then come back up. And he's like, there's something over there. And so we immediately grab bows and we're like, what is it? And so me and Aaron go to where that area, go towards that tree. And I work down the road a little bit. Maybe it comes out down lower or whatever. And just about that time, we hear Waylon saying, it's up here, get up here. And so I run up there and at this point, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know elk, deer, bear, didn't know what. And he says it was a bear, which we have bear tags. And the bear walks 10 yards from you?
Probably 10 to 15 yards right by the fire. Doesn't even look my direction. Just walks right by and goes back into the brush.
And so I see a glimpse of the bear at this point. Aaron sees a glimpse of the bear at this point. And so I run down the road just based off the direction we saw it going. It's either going to come out towards Aaron or come out towards me down the road, which never happened. So Aaron decides he's going to make a big loop around.
I think he even snuck up on a doe that was bedded.
Yep.
While looking for it.
Yep. So he decides he's going to sneak around this area that the bear went into and maybe push it out towards us. So while he's doing that, we start walking back up towards the fire. And at this point, we didn't know where the bear was. We thought, it could be a mile away by now.
We figured the bear was gone.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about it, and he's like, you think this bear's still here? And I said, probably not. We had a fire. It kind of saw us. It's probably gone.
And so...
Well, it wasn't.
Waylon's 10 feet ahead of me in the road, maybe. And he stops real quick, and Cal calls, and I'm like, what's he doing? And he says, it's right here. Draw your bow. So I draw my bow and finish walking up the hill, and this bear was standing on its back legs. And Waylon's right in my ear, right beside me. He's still cow calling to keep the bear kind of curious.
You're at full draw at this point.
I'm at full draw. I finished walking up the road the last 6 or 7 feet at full draw. And he's in my ear whispering, smoke him right in the chest. And so I guessed the yardage. I mean, this all happened super quick.
It was very rushed.
Yeah. And so I guessed the yardage, and I just hold my 30-yard pin right on his chest and hit over to the right, probably 5 inches. 3 inches, 4 inches.
Not ideal.
I mean, a bear's chest isn't that wide. So probably hit 4 or 5 inches to the right. And it appears that way. We don't know if it, the fletchings could have turned and.
The arrow might have kicked a little bit and hit that brisket.
Anyways, we're pumped up. We shot a bear. And honestly, Aaron is still off doing God knows what, chasing whatever he's chasing. He doesn't even know this has all happened at this point. And so Waylon's like, I'm just going to sneak down the trail just a little bit. It was really, really open in that area. And he's like, just to see if we can find blood, which you informed us that bears usually don't bleed for 40 yards or so.
Yes.
Just so much fat and hair. And so he sneaks down there. We don't find any blood. But there's a little knoll where we can kind of see down into where he runs. And so I'm up there waiting just to kind of see, maybe we see brush move. Maybe we see where he's at. Maybe we see where he goes. And then Aaron comes back up and he's like, yeah, I saw a doe. I'm like, yeah, I shot a bear. He's like, what? I'm like,
he didn't even know at this point
it ended up coming back. I'm like, it circled back, and I told him the story. And so I stay up on that ridge, and we actually see Aaron again, sees a branch just move a little bit. And he's like, I saw that tree move. And so we give it a while, probably 45 minutes, and then we start actually going down in there. And we quickly figured out that bear was still alive and still moving. So
yeah, we could see some brush moving down there and kind of hear him. I knew it was him, so kind of backed out again.
Yep, waited again. And then we went in again, and we kind of just went in guns blazing. But yet again, we figured out this bear is still pretty much alive. And so you tell me to go grab my bow, circle back down the hill to a road, because that was the direction he was heading. And the words you said to me, if I cow call, he's coming your direction.
He's coming your direction.
Get ready. And I'm like, all right. So I'm standing down in this road, and I can only see 15 yards both ways.
Aaron and I are heading towards the bear, following blood.
Heading towards the bear.
It's heading towards you.
And at this point, I'll let you take over because I wasn't there, but.
Well, the bear just kept slowly moving towards you, and I figured, well, if it comes out in that opening, he's going to get a shot. But then it kind of just took a right turn and started going uphill. So Aaron and I just kept following blood.
And
Finally,
there's blood everywhere.
It's blood, good blood, easy to follow. He was kind of climbing on logs because it was so thick in there. It was like a jungle. Well, there's a big rock slide above us, and at one point we hear a rock roll. So I go out in the open, and there's the bear. He's standing in the rock slide. He's, 60 yards, 62? Aaron had ranged him, which he doesn't have a bow. Nobody has a weapon at this point. I have a pistol just in case, but the bear takes off real slow. He's side hilling, so I decide I'm going to get up there and try to run it down, push it towards Dylan. Well, Aaron's down there laughing at me because I'm chasing this bear. The bear looks back, sees me standing on all fours on his hind legs, and he sees me coming at him, just takes off and bolts. And from Aaron's point of view, he just says, the bear's running across the hill. I'm chasing it. And the whole time I'm cow calling so he can see the bear. Well, Dylan's down there every time I cow call thinking that this bear's running
Bear's
towards
coming
him.
my direction.
So he's down there freaking out. All he can see is probably 15 or 20 yards of brush waiting for this bear to come out. All he's hearing is cow calls and whistle.
And so I'm looking every which direction because I'm being told a bear's coming my direction.
Yeah, it was pretty eventful.
And you're chasing a bear up the mountains.
Chasing a bear on foot.
Yeah. And so all I can think about is like what's going on? Because I hear Aaron's trying to keep track of you. You're trying to like slow the bear down and trick him. And so Aaron is telling me, he's like, man, when they're up on the mountain, it looked like Waylon is just, 10 yards from him.
We were eye to eye for a minute. We had a little moment.
Yeah. So he circles back down and Waylon comes to me and, when he's walking up to me, I'm like, well, that means we probably got him because Aaron's not here. He's probably with the bear. Waylon's down here. And I'm like, so that means we got him? He's like, no, not at all. He's like, but here's the good news. He's like, good news is it's a good bear. Bad news is he's not dead yet, but there's blood everywhere. And Waylon literally has blood on him. Like,
there's blood on my arm.
It's a good blood trail when the person trailing him is covered in blood. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, you're covered in blood. Aaron's not back. You're back. I'm like, so that means we got him. He's like, no. He said, but honestly, he can't have much blood left in him. Like
he bled a lot.
And so you had seen.
I'd seen him probably 500 yards from where I was. He was on an open hillside, just stopping. He was licking his arm, going real slow. So I saw him go into the brush there and kind of disappear. So we had a spot to look. So I'd sent Aaron there. I said, try to find blood. I'm going to go get Dylan. So we got you back up there. And the three of us we sat down for probably, another 40 minutes, ate lunch, drank some water, and then started trailing him into this, I guess you'd say, the worst brush patch I'd ever seen. I mean, he wasn't even touching the ground, the bear wasn't at some points. He was just climbing through this brush.
And you had told us going into this, you're like, this is going to suck.
So that's an area you do not go into. You can't. It's almost unpassable.
Which is why the bear went there.
Exactly. He was just trying to get away from us.
And halfway through, we're in this brush, and like we can't even walk. Like
it's probably 25 feet tall, and just you can't walk in there.
You can't move forward.
A fire came through there years ago, and the brush is going up really thick.
And so Aaron at one point looks back at me. He's like, you know what? Waylon's right every time. If he says an area sucks, it sucks. And I knew we had kind of called it, and we're still finding blood in there. And like you said, like this bear couldn't have much blood left in him. And that's one of the hardest things as a hunter. Like, and not just
now it's probably pushing 3 o'clock.
Yeah,
we've been on this bear all day long since morning.
And you've already ran it down the mountain.
10
I think you actually came to me and you said, "Listen, me and this bear shared a moment, and we're gonna stick and kill this bear."
It's getting personal now.
It's getting personal now, is what you said. He said, actually, the first words out of your mouth were, "I almost had him by the back leg, but I gassed out." He said, "Almost
I got
grabbed
real
him."
close once.
Things got Western quick, and so, anyways, I knew we were calling it, and that's one of the hardest things as a hunter, knowing or being 98% sure that bear is going to die, but just you simply can't get to him. Like
right.
we would have literally either had to have a dozer or burn that hillside down to find that bear.
Yeah, we just kept doing circles right there, lost blood, kept doing circles, and couldn't find him in there. He's in that brush probably somewhere, but we just couldn't find him.
And that's one of the hardest things as a hunter is like being pretty sure an animal's dead, but not being able to find it. Like there's one thing in knowing like, okay, I think that animal's gonna live.
That shot didn't really hit any vitals, but he just lost a lot of blood. There was never lung blood. It wasn't in the guts or anything. It was just, he lost a lot of blood, but there wasn't any blood left to follow. And we did everything we could to find that bear. We spent the whole day there.
Yeah.
Went back to that area the next day, looked around, just couldn't find him.
And that's just a hard thing to wrap your mind around. Like, and we've all hit animals and known, like, okay, I hit him high, like nothing. He's good. He's gonna live. But to know like that animal's probably dead and I can't find it, that's one of the hardest things, I think.
Yeah, it's hard to sit with.
But things got exciting, to say the very least.
Yeah, that day went by very fast.
Yeah.
We got sidetracked from elk hunting to bear hunting there real quick.
Real quick. It's one of those things I always tell people, like when I see a coyote, I turn into a coyote hunter real quick. And I'll ruin a deer hunt when I see a bunch of coyotes. And that's kind of how that happened with the bear. And I even remember telling Aaron, like, sorry, we ruined your day of elk hunting to chase this bear. But what happened on your day? You already covered day 3, didn't you? Yep. So day 4, again, we got right back into them and things got exciting again. Day 4 was just another moment where Waylon decides, like, we either got to make a move on this bull or not. We're either going to kill this bull or we're going to blow him out.
Yep. We were in position to kill him, but
Yeah.
we decided to have the wind right. And that was the day we moved down, right? Took a nap.
Yep.
Well, what happened is we weren't calling into this bull at all, but as we moved, we were making noise so he could hear us coming. He kept trying to cut us off and get our wind.
We were up on the ridge. He was down below.
Yeah, he was probably 150 yards from us, but every time we covered 150 yards of ground, he would move out another 150. He was keeping track of us by bugling. We weren't calling at all. That went on for a couple hours till finally we just sat down, ate some lunch, took a nap. I actually woke up to a really close bugle. So Dylan was asleep, of course. I had to wake him up. I'm like, let's go kill this bull. And it was
I wake up to Waylon standing over and saying, let's go kill this bull.
Get up. It's right here. He wakes up, gets ready. We move in on this bull. The wind was right. It was probably within 15 minutes. What'd you have him at? 20, 30 yards?
Probably just right at 20.
He moved right in, but our wind was blowing down hard, and he got just in front of you and got your wind before you could get a shot. That looked like a nice bull too, right?
Yeah. So that's another thing, going back to the whole you don't have to call. So to kind of paint this picture, we're up on a ridge. The elk is down below us. He's keeping track of us because he hears us. And really all we're trying to do is work far enough down the ridge so we can drop in downwind of him.
Yeah. We
But
tried
again-
to get downwind the whole time, and he wouldn't let us.
But again, he kept hearing us. He's following us. So we hear this bull down below us. Like as we would move 150 yards on top of the ridge, he would move 150 yards on the bottom of the ridge, just keeping track of us the whole time.
He was playing a game with us.
Yeah, he was there to play elk games.
He was.
And you immediately said that, like, this bull is wanting to do it. We just got
So with that bull, we couldn't be aggressive at all. I mean, that's a prime example of being very patient. I mean, that was hours, probably 4 or 5 hours we waited on this bull to get in the right position. He finally moved off to the right, and our wind was blowing down to the left. So that's when we decided to move in on him.
And by stopping and taking a nap, you made that bull. You turned the tables to where he has to look for us now.
Right, and that's like as a DIY hunter, like you said, not being aggressive on that bull and just pushing him out of there. That's where experience comes in. Lots of knowledge of knowing what to do with what bull.
Yeah.
'Cause if you blow them bulls out of that area, they're gone.
Yeah,
They're not just running. But when you get in that area, they're not just running to, they're just not going to run over here in the brush like, with your whitetail hunters. They're going to run, they're going to run over a cornfield and they're going to stop.
Right.
They don't stop. They go over this ridge and over the next ridge, and then they're going to be in the next canyon, and you're not going to play with them again for a few days or a week or whatever.
so being patient is a big part of it.
And honestly,
It's hard as a hunter to sit there as a client. Everybody wants to be aggressive, kill an elk, but it's hard to trust your guide. You just got to trust their experience.
Yeah. And that's something that. So when we set up for this calling scenario, this was, and I told Aaron, that's what sucked the most is like, I looked and I saw a trail this way and this way, and they were both about 15 yards away. So I'm like, either way he comes, I'm going to have a 15-yard shot. And I was set up. There was lower brush all around me, big old tree behind me to break up my silhouette. Like, this was the picture perfect setup. I mean, either trail he came up, I was going to get a shot at him. Or if he went completely around and skirted me, Aaron was going to get a shot at him. And so it was just a beautiful setup.
It's a perfect spot, beautiful spot right there.
But
little meadow.
He knew what he was doing. I mean, he got downwind of me, and
They
when I see
really
20
like
yards,
to circle downwind with you. They really want to smell you before they come in.
yeah. And a lot of people can't even fathom how this elk was at 20 yards, and I couldn't even see his head.
That's
all
how
I
thick
could
it
see
is
was
in there.
antlers.
They love it in there.
Yeah,
'Cause it's that thick. There's
he-
water in there. It's cold in there.
he was down below a little, just a little drop off, and I just see his antlers coming through, and I'm like, crap, he's coming right up this trail. And so I position myself to shoot him right on that trail, and he stops right there. And again, I couldn't even see his whole head. I could just see skull capping up, and I'm like, he's coming. He's doing the dang thing.
That's when you get excited right there.
And he literally, again, he lets off a bugle.
How exciting was that?
Oh, my Lord. Aaron was, I don't know how far he was away from me, but he couldn't have been too far, 30 yards away maybe. And that bull, again, lets off just one of those bugles that you'll never forget because it's
the
right
hair
in
in the
your
back of your neck
face.
stand up.
Oh, my Lord. It's right in your face, and it's loud. It's growly.
That's what elk hunting's all about.
It was insane.
That'll make you start shaking.
And I just knew he was going to do it. And this time you set up a decoy, so I just knew he was going to do it. And
Right. Sometimes that decoy helps him close that last little distance.
Yep.
Kind of sells it for him.
But like you said, he got downwind, and at that point you thought I shot because he bolted
did.
out of there. And
I was really hoping. He bolted out of there. I could hear the brush crashing, and that either means he busted you, saw you moving, winded you, or you got a shot in. I snuck in there, and I could see Aaron, and he was still really still. So I snuck over to you, and I actually couldn't even find you because you'd moved just a little bit from where I'd set you, which you moved into a better position. And it was like,
and again, it
what
was
happened?
it
And
was
you didn't have an exciting look on your face, so I was like, oh.
it was the perfect setup because I had a tree that was 3 foot wide all around me, and so between me and the bull, so the bull could not see me at all. I had one eye, so to where I could see him where he was coming from, and it was
You were in a
just gonna
perfect
be
position. He didn't know you were there at all.
picture perfect setup. But he definitely winded us and bolted out of there. So again, we had an exciting day just a incredible day.
I think we had another bull actually come in that worked by us. I didn't get to see it. I don't know if Aaron saw a glimpse of it, but it worked by us, stayed out 50, 60 yards.
I think Aaron's the only person here that never saw an elk.
Right?
And what's funny is like he's the most
He was close to him.
he's the most aggressive, and he's the most ambitious maybe.
He's a very good hunter.
The first night we got here,
He should have hunted with me. We seen elk all the time.
Yeah.
He didn't like
Maybe
me.
just had the wrong guide.
yeah, he didn't trust his guide.
Yeah.
He didn't trust the process.
No.
Joel was too slow for
We
him.
should have traded you spots. Every time I set you up, a bull came into you.
But literally the first night we get here, like we're setting up camp, like dinner's cooking, we're setting up camp. It's almost dark, and Aaron comes. He's like, "So do you think we can go out and like just call it something?" And he said, "No, huh?" Just to crush his dreams. He said the look on Aaron's face,
He looked crushed. It was priceless.
the look on his face was just a look of defeat. But we did. You did say walk up this road, and just slow walk through there. And this is night one. We didn't even cover that because it really wasn't a night of hunting. Aaron shot a grouse. That was fun, exciting, and we
You guys
heard
did hear some bugles, right?
Yeah, we heard at least 2 bulls, maybe 3, firing off, and so that's kind of we told Joel, hey, and Joel had went down there too, and we
That's exciting when you just got to camp. Bulls are bugling below camp. I mean, things are looking up.
yeah, for sure.
Very exciting.
Guys, there's one fabric that if you're not wearing, you absolutely should be. It's a magic fabric. It changes everything about the way you layer, everything about the way you dress, everything about the way you hunt, and that is merino wool. I couldn't even begin to tell you all of the benefits of merino wool, and I'm going to miss some for sure. But guys, whether it's summer or whether it's winter, this is going to keep you cool in the summer. It's moisture wicking. It's going to pull the moisture away from your body, but it's also going to hold your heat in the winter. It is antimicrobial. It doesn't smell. It doesn't hold scent like other fabrics does. So if you're out on a 5-day hunt, you don't have access to a washer, this is not going to hold your scent. It's not going to get stinky and nasty. It's also quick drying. You can hang this up in your tent. You can hang it up on a clothesline. It's going to dry really quick. But the coolest part about merino, in my opinion, is that when it gets wet, it still maintains its warmth properties. So if there's a light rain or a snow and this gets wet, it's still going to keep me warm. There's no itch. It's non-allergenic. It's an amazing fabric. Minus 33. I stumbled upon minus 33 by accident. I was on backcountry.com and they were having a blowout sale. I needed some new merino for a hunt that was coming up. And so I dove in, I bought it. And when I got it, it was the softest, best merino I have ever felt in my entire life. I've not worn anything but minus 33 socks for everyday life, whether I'm hunting, hiking, or just, out for the day. I haven't worn anything but minus 33 socks in over a year and a half. Every single day I'm wearing their underwear. every single time I'm out hunting, whether it's 100 or whether it's 5, I'm wearing some sort of beanie to cover up my chrome dome and to keep that covered up and warm or cool, whether if it's in the summer. But also that UV protectant. I like to wear it in the summer. Guys, minus 33 does merino, in my opinion, better than anybody else does it. Go check out minus 33 for all your merino wool. And if you haven't ever tried merino, guys, you are missing out. It will change the way you layer. It will change the way you hunt. Go check out merino wool and go check out minus 33. How was your day 4?
We had a really good day 4. We got up into the same area we were at on day 3 and just pressed in a little bit harder on him. We got right into his bedroom, and we were right in a bunch of beds with all sorts of sign and everything around. And we got up close to where we wanted to be, and we couldn't hear nothing because we were way down below, and we could hear one way off in the distance. So finally I'm like, well, we know they were here. We didn't bow them out of here yesterday, so let's just try to sneak up in there a little bit closer. And so we closed the distance, and we got up there a little bit farther and let off a cow call, and all of a sudden he was there, and he came quick. But
how close did he get?
I think that first time he came down, he was within 60, 70 yards, I think. And, we just kind of split real quick, and he was on top of us, and then he just bugled his way right past us and went on up over the ridge, and I was calling. And
we covered a lot of ground to get into these spots.
Yeah, a lot of ground.
And I flashed the decoy at him, and, and he walked over the ridge and kept bugling, and I was like, well, what the heck's his deal?
He didn't want to play.
He just wasn't interested in playing, but he came back 3 different times. We brought him right back in, and, we were sitting right in the bedroom, so yeah. He come back to us like 3 different times, and we were playing a little eye contact, I was winking at him with the decoy and everything, and I couldn't get him to come off that hill.
Flirting with him.
Yeah, I think day 4
he was within 80 yards 3 or 4 different times on day 4.
And I think both of your hunters got to see him that day.
Yep, they come right in, and they both were right there.
And I think this is the same day. Day 4, you saw the same bull that we called in on day 1, that narrow 6 with the whale tails. Or was that day 3 that you called that bull in? Either way.
Yeah.
Either way,
we were hundreds of yards apart. We kind of hunted that same group of elk, just from different angles.
Yeah.
We cover that.
Yeah.
So we split up and kind of went after
on the inside of the one ridge, and you're on the other side of the other ridge.
And I think day 4 is the day that you kind of just got really aggressive, hunted really hard, and both of your hunters come back and just they were covered in sweat. I mean, you went hard that day.
We did?
I think so.
Oh.
I think
that's what they said.
I think
they were claiming it was going hard. I think it was just normal day elk hunting.
I think the first words out of Ethan's mouth were, "I think we killed him." Like, we're like the elk, and he's like, "No, like the hunter." Like, I think we ran hard. And
well, when you have guys that are in shape and prepared for this hunt, then we can, as guides, hunt as hard as we want that way, and that's great. That really helps. Your success rate goes way up.
Yeah, and I checked my phone before we started recording. We averaged 10 miles a day. One day, was 8, but another day was 12.
10 miles in very steep terrain.
Crazy terrain, yeah. And like we said, that's people can't even like wrap their mind. Like, I don't even know what the equivalent would be, but we're going through stuff, crawling over deadfalls, and like you said, that day we were tracking that bear. I mean, you couldn't even walk through there.
Yeah, he was trying to lose us going through it's like a jungle in there.
So it was a hard fought average 10 miles a day.
Yes.
And
we've hunted about as hard as you can hunt for elk.
Yeah.
And we've been in them every day.
And
it's been
why
a great week.
And that's why it's, sometimes hard for people to understand, like, it was a phenomenal week of hunting. Like, even though nobody
killed an elk, it was, everybody said it was a success.
Yeah.
The whole group.
Phenomenal week of hunting. And I do plan on doing a podcast with the other guys, the other hunters that came with me. I brought 3 of my really good friends up here, and I just want to cover with them. I've been on one elk hunt, Nate's been on one elk hunt, but still very green. And for the other 2, it was the first elk hunt, and so I just want to kind of talk about expectations versus reality, and what we learned, what we didn't expect, and kind of, all that stuff. And so stay tuned for that one, because I think that'll be a good episode, because I want to hear from those guys because we kind of laid in bed last night and kind of talked about that this is what blew my mind. This is what I didn't really.
You guys have a long drive home, so you can recap the whole week.
Yeah, just like 22 hours.
Well, that's where I think a lot of it, with your really green hunters and especially your DIY hunters, you're watching all these YouTube videos, and everybody's a YouTube video hunter, where there's thousands of hours that go into this, this half-hour episode, and I mean, you could have years where you would, before you have as much experience as you got in this week with as many encounters and as many elk as we were able to get in on, it just.
You guys got a
take
lot of experience.
Yeah, a lot more experience than, even your
week.
typical hunter's going to get in 1 week just because we had a really good week.
And you know that from being here before where we didn't get near as much.
Right. And that's, I tell people all the time, and I understand it's a lot of money and it's a commitment to make, but if you want to start hunting something new, I don't care if it's elk, I don't care if it's mountain lions, whatever. If you want to start hunting something new, start with an outfitter. So many guys are like, well, I want to do it myself. I want to, which is cool. I mean, that's a cool thing to do, but you learn so much more.
Absolutely.
By just listening to your guide. And, I try to ask you questions. All right, so if an elk calls from here, what would we do? Like, as we're walking through there, okay, so if we heard one over there, how would we even
a lot of stuff we do doesn't make sense to you probably, but it's just we can't tell you every little detail. Most of the time we're trying to be quiet, so it's hard to explain every little thing we're doing, but there's a reason behind everything we're doing.
Right.
Yeah, I started elk hunting 26 years ago. I mean, that's what we did.
You're old.
I am old.
Man.
I wish young kids could keep up.
We got almost 50 years of elk hunting experience right here.
Yeah, we got a lot
like
of
I said, trust your guide. You want to kill something? First rule is don't guide your guide. Just trust him.
Yeah. And so we even talked about this at one point too. Like we get into that area, this area that we're talking about where we kind of chase them from all different angles and directions, sign everywhere. That whole mountainside was just destroyed with sign. Do you ever like just hang tree stands and then, know, okay, they're going to be coming through here, so let's just completely surprise them? And
we do. I mean, there's a few tree stands up right now, but that's not really our style of hunting.
Right.
I mean, Joel and I are more aggressive, get to the elk, try to get it done. That style, I mean, in the evenings, you can sit at the tree stands. We have some bear baits out. You can sit on those. But our style is get in on those elk and either bump them or kill them.
Yeah.
Which we do that carefully. We say that, but we try not to bump them out of there.
Right. So night 4, me and Aaron decided we got back a little early, too late to just put a new play on elk, and so we just go sit on bear bait. Aaron was soaking wet, so he freezes his nays off while we sat there.
I'm pretty sure that's because he stripped down to his boxers and jumped in the creek. But
yeah, he wanted to present
that's why
himself to you in a way that would.
Yeah,
that's all I can say.
That was amazing.
Yeah, he wanted to put on a show for you, I guess. He even said, because it was cold down there, and he even said...
That's what he tried to tell you. It was because it was cold.
Yeah, it looked like the pool was cold.
So that's what he says was, dude, it's really cold, so I'm going to wait till Waylon gets here so I can jump in. And we heard the four-wheeler coming. He dive bombs in and waits for you to pull up. But
he's actually sitting in the creek when I pull up. Hands behind his head.
Yeah. And so, anyways...
Cracked me up.
So the whole time we're sitting on the bear bait, I'm like, this is your fault, bro. You didn't have to get wet. You just wanted to be funny. Didn't see any bears. Day 5 was eventful for you guys. How was day 5 for you?
We started off, we kind of tried to take a different approach to it just to give them a little switch up on our plan. So we tried to drop in from above them, and I tried to push past where they had been hanging out, and they talked to us a little bit, did some barking, which made me a little concerned just because the wind is blowing down on them. So we got way past them and then tried to wait for the wind to get better and side hill back into them. And we just never could get anything going. And I don't know, maybe they had a little wind on us and they pushed down the mountain. We just couldn't hear them or whatever. So we ended up I told the guys we got to be early afternoon. I'm like, this is the last day we got to go. We got to go after them. So I said, I'll give you 2 options. We can sit here and we can hope and pray, or we can go make something happen. And they're like, well, we want to make something happen. So I said, all right, let's bomb out of here and we'll go find something else to do. And so we went tearing out of there and, walked right up on a cow and a calf, like I said, because we weren't trying to be quiet, everything that's in the woods trying to kill them is trying to be quiet. And we weren't trying to be quiet. We were just trying to get out of there. So we walked right up on a cow and a calf. And then there wasn't a bull with them that we could see, but they were in some brush, so we couldn't tell for sure. But then we, got back to our truck and then drove around the mountain, got way down underneath and just sat there and watched for a while, and got one just before dark. And of course we didn't have much time because it was just an hour before dark, and we got one bugling at us. So we took off up the mountain, tried to make a play on him as we're going up there. Then I didn't see it off the bat. The boys that were behind me, I was standing next to a tree and they're like, there's a bear. And I'm like, well, shoot him. Shoot that thing. It was right in the same area where where you guys shot your bear the other day, just a little black bear come, and I think we probably bumped him out of the brush there. And so he was walking off the side. I didn't see him at first. And they're like, well, what do we do? I'm like, well, shoot it. We'll shoot that bear and then we'll go get this elk too. But then, bear got spooked and he took off through the brush, and the elk was still coming. So we just kind of split up and we got him to come down to us. And I think there was probably 2 bulls in there, but He'd come down to us, but he just wouldn't come off the top of the edge there, and he wouldn't come into us.
It was easy for me and Aaron to say, like, because me and Aaron were not with that group, to say, like, you idiots, why don't you shoot the bear? But it's a hard thing to do when you know a bull's right up there.
Yeah, I mean, that bear was more than a couple hundred yards off, and he was screaming at us, and we were kind of stuck out there in the open, and we had to get to some cover to,
it seems to happen a lot. I don't know if those bears come into the calls or we're bumping them out, but it's hard to shoot a bear when you have a bull bugling at under 100 yards.
Because you could blow that bull out, by trying to kill a bear. And so it's one of those things, okay, do I want to shoot a bear?
How bad do you want that bear?
How bad do you want the bear? Or do you want to go in and kill this elk? Because what's going to happen is the bear could run right towards the elk, and then you got to go in there. And so. Of
course, the bear's a lot easier to kill than an elk. So when you have an elk at under 100 yards, I would pass on the bear myself. But
right.
That's a personal choice.
Yeah. So day 5 was the furthest thing from eventful for me and Aaron and Waylon. But Waylon did say, he was trying to explain to us, like, yeah, we could very quickly be in the elk, but we're also helping Joel because you were bugling a lot, and that bull was answering us that
we're trying to keep that bull talking so they could hear. We knew they were moving down on those elk, so we tried to keep him talking so maybe he could hear it a lot better. We were assisting them basically, but
and I think they were low enough though that we couldn't hear you guys. We couldn't hear you at all.
We thought we were helping, we weren't.
So we started off the day by just going into a little knoll that you say is one of your favorite areas, and you actually called a bull in there last year for the other hunters that were in camp with me, and just a really good listening point. We heard bulls firing off. We heard the bulls that they were chasing, and so
just none of them were close enough to us to make a play on.
Right, and so you make the decision to just go down the mountain and kind of call to help them, and that's one thing that I think me and Aaron definitely took from this hunt is like you are 100% a team when you're hunting these elk, and you hear. You tell the stories and you say, we killed that bull. And that's kind of a hard thing to understand. Like, well, no, the other guy killed the bull. But when you're doing this, like, you are
There's
a team.
I in team.
And I could 100% say that if Aaron would have shot a bear, or would have shot a bull while we were hunting together, I would have felt like we did it together. And even if Nate or Ethan would have shot a bull, like, I would have felt like, we push bulls their way, they push bulls our way.
Yeah, we worked together all week on what we're going to do.
And that makes a lot of fun when you have a group of 4 guys, that our friends, and they are here together.
They're going to enjoy when one of their friends takes a bull.
Yeah, and it would have been 100% a team effort. And that's one thing that I really want to start taking back to the whitetail woods. It doesn't always have to be go sit in a tree stand by yourself and try to kill the biggest bull or the biggest buck. You can hunt as a group of friends and set up decoys and call and do it together.
To me, that's a lot funner.
Yeah, I think
you
it's
get to share that moment
fun
with your friends, and your friends are in there. You get to make fun of them for the stupid stuff they did. You get to watch them get excited. They're shaking over there. How was that?
The mistakes you make, and I think you learn more from you always learn more from your mistakes, and you learn from your successes anyway. So
right,
come back to camp and talk about how was your day? What'd you guys see? That's a big topic when we're eating dinner. Is everybody's recapping their day?
Yeah, we're in the same area, but we'd never see each other all day. But we know that you're there. And a couple of times up there, I'd hear Waylon calling or whatever. Obviously,
so we both know we're in the elk. We're not communicating, but we know we're in the elk.
Right.
So one thing that you guys talked about quite a bit with bulls like this, and we did it one day, kind of, but you said, one thing that you can really do is have a team drop in up top and on bottom. So if you push the bull, you're going to push to them. If they push it,
it just doubles your chances, basically.
So how do you lay that out to make that work?
Well, for Joel and I, we work together a lot on that. So he says, well, I want to come in here. What's your plan today? We always sit there at night and make a plan in our heads. And then I say, well, what are you going to do? And then we try to work together on each other's plans. He says, well, if you're going to go there, then maybe I'll come in on this trail and be below you and set up in case it doesn't work for you.
A lot of that's just knowing the area. Because this is a big area. We could, you go back home and you're going to hunt 100 acres or whatever back home. And 100 acres is 100 acre. We're looking at thousands of acres here. Which is
hundreds of thousands.
We've hunted together this so long, so many year after year that we know the area really well.
Yeah, you got to know the area and where they typically hang out. And I think that's a lot. A DUI hunter, they're coming in. It's going to take them a couple days to even find elk. Most of the time when you come into an elk, where if you go with a guide, you go, those guys are in that area. We've been in this area for weeks. We know where their animals are at. We know where they typically are year after year, where they show up and where they're going to be.
Moved to a different ridge. We know they moved that ridge because we were there the day they moved.
And there are days where you say, well, if you're going into that area, I'm not, I won't even touch that. I don't want to. We'll go somewhere completely different because you understand, right.
There's not room enough for that to happen, or there's not a trail or anything we can come in on to help out. So he says, well, I'm going to go here. I said, okay, well, we're going to go to a different area. So we'll do 2 completely separate hunts.
But this area that we're talking about where all the elk seem to be hanging out this week, again, the trail that you come in on is 3,000 feet below or 3,000 feet above the bottom trail. So it gives you a lot of room to kind of push elk around between the two groups.
Yeah, that's just 3,000 feet, just elevation gain. That
elevation gain.
That's not considering the
how many miles apart they are.
I think it was 4 miles down maybe?
Yep.
Somewhere in that area. But again, it gives you a lot of room to, we can work around this way, and if we push them, they're going to go back towards them. And
this is a big canyon right here that holds a lot of elk, but like when we say we're going to do a different hunt, we went to a completely different canyon, which is 5-6 miles from here.
It also gives you room to know, and I don't really know how to put this, but to know, okay, if Joel is on that ridge, we might be 2 miles away, not hunting the same bulls at all.
Right.
But by me calling, like we did on day 5, I'm helping Joel keep track of his bull.
Yeah, he might not know we're even doing it, but like I told you guys, I said, well, if we can't get into him, we might as well call a little bit, and they're answering me. Maybe he will hear them, and then he can move in on them.
Yeah.
So either way, we're trying to help each other out.
But there's also been a couple times where Joel told you where he was hunting and you went in and just killed his bulls.
Oh, yeah, that has happened in the past. He's careful about that.
It's probably happened vice versa, too, though.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Last year I snuck in underneath him and, sniped the ball out from underneath him.
I knew he was there. I kept calling.
Yeah. But, he wasn't going to come to him. He just wouldn't commit.
They were way too far from me. They were 300-400 yards from me, so I kept calling.
We were able to sneak underneath, and, I hit him with the cow call, and he just come blasting in there. And, he was on us so fast that my hunters couldn't even get separated last year, and they...
and they weren't a group before, so his hunters were really excited, where my hunters were like, "What happened?" And I was like, "Well, the elk decided to go to him."
Yeah. So after a week of hunting hard like this, you've got new clients coming in tomorrow.
Yep.
How does that change, or does that change what you do, the next week? If you've hunted bulls and chased them hard, and I think the one that winded me is the only one that ever actually got busted. So we really didn't educate bulls this week.
We didn't. We were really careful about that. And educating elk is a really bad thing. A lot of guys would blow an elk out and then do a bunch of cow calls or bugle, which you just want to quit calling in my mind. In my opinion, quit calling. If they bust you, just quit.
Just walk away and go do something else. Go find somewhere else to go.
Back out of there, go somewhere else. Like next week, we might give those bulls and those cows a break for a couple days and go to a completely different area.
Yeah.
And then go back.
And that's one thing. I try to tell people that all the time, even with deer calling. I never call if I know I'm going to get out in the tree stand in a little bit. I'm not going to call because I don't want to be calling a deer come in and then me climbing down a tree stand. I've educated that deer,
right?
Or turkeys. I don't want to. If I'm about to leave, I don't want a turkey call and then the turkey see me leaving. The same with the elk. The 2 times you should be the quietest verbally. I'm not talking about walking around. Is after you call or after an elk blows out because you don't want to.
Right. And everybody wants to get a reaction. They want that elk to come back, as an uneducated hunter, but that's very bad. You're just educating those elk. And myself, I might even, when we go back in there, I'll use a different bugle. I have several bugles. I'll use different reeds so I don't sound the same. Maybe they winded us and we didn't know, but I'm going to switch everything up if I go back in there.
Right.
Yeah, with the one day there, we had that same bull came back into us 3 different times, but he didn't wind us. And I think maybe the last time he come through there, he might have got a whiff of us because then all of a sudden he was gone and, and we weren't hearing him at all. So we just kind of got out of there. But
don't use the same cow calls. Don't be repetitive in what you do. Create a scenario in your head, whether you're a cow talking to a bull, you're 2 bulls talking, just create a scenario and go with that. And that's what they like.
So how do you keep mixing it up though? Because you're here for weeks.
Well, like myself, what I do is react to whatever. If I'm sneaking on a bull and he's reacting to cow calls, then I'm not going to bugle at all. There's no reason to. If he's reacting to those cow calls, then you're just a cow working into him. You just kind of feel out each situation is going to be different. So over the years, you just learn what to do. If nothing's talking and you're bugling to locate and he's keeping track, so I might just locate with a bugle, and then if he reacts to the cow calls, I'm not going to bugle again. I'm going to cow call my way into him and then try to draw him out. As to where a bull is being aggressive and he's reacting to a lot of bugles, then bugle your way into him. You're going to have to read each situation.
Now, and I kind of want to talk about this scenario because it's a scenario we didn't really see this week as hunters. What are you doing if a bull is answering you, wants to play games, but he does have a bunch of cows? Because that's something we didn't really see. We were calling bulls into us
which was nice.
Yeah, really
So you
nice.
got to position yourself between that bull and his cows, and that's really hard to do with wind. If you do that and bugle, and it's a herd bull, he's going to try to come in. But position yourself between that bull and cows is real hard to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of eyes watching, a lot of nose smelling, you know.
Yeah,
And
how
a lot of
would
times
you-
when you get with a group of cows and a bull, there's going to be some other bulls that are around, you know, and you might not even be hearing them, you know, because they're so quiet in the woods, as you well know, you know. They'll walk up right behind you and, you know, they tap you on the shoulder and be like, oh, I'm over here, and, you know, you're done.
They can
You
be
know, but-
sneaky for a big animal.
You know, if there's a group of cows and there's a herd bull in there, there's going to be some other bulls hanging around, you know, and you might not pull off that herd bull, but you
you
might
might
be
pull off
pulling one
another
of them
bull.
satellite bulls
Yep.
that's hanging around the outside there, you know, and he might not be talking. You might just be coming in quiet, you know, so you
That's
always
where-
got to be aware of your surroundings and what's
That's
going
where
on.
coming
around
in,
you.
like being really still helps, because
Yeah.
being still, we tell these guys, even though that bull's over there, he's 60 yards away bugling, that's not the bull you're going to kill maybe. You know,
Yeah.
these satellite bulls come in.
Which that actually happened.
Silent.
That actually happened day one. You know, we called that bull in, and
Yes,
that
it
bull
did.
was 8 yards from me. There actually was another bull that
Right behind me.
skirted around me to you to the caller
Yep.
that I never even saw. I never even knew that bull was there until after this whole thing
I
played
don't
out.
think that bull bugled at all.
Never made a noise.
He
That's-
snapped a stick and I looked down. He was working his way to us, so I had moved way to the right and told you he was coming, but he never did poke out. I had him at 40 yards twice.
And I think that's the huge thing too. Is you know we tell you, hold still, hold still. Well, I mean, holding still is the name of the game. Yeah, you hear this one coming, but there might be one sneaking up behind you that you
That
don't know.
happens about
But they're
60,
looking,
70% of the time
you know,
one
they're
comes in
looking for
behind
me.
us.
You know, they're looking for the caller. They hear the caller. They hear me. They're not looking for. Oh, I'm not looking for this new stump that just popped up here, you know, or this new rock, you know. And that's what I tell my guys: be the best stump you can be the best rock you can be, and just stay there and don't move, because you know if
Be a
they're not
statue.
looking for you as the hunter, you know, they'll walk right past you because they're looking for me because I'm down the hill a ways or whatever, you know. And I might not be able to see my hunters, but that I'm trying to bring that elk to me, and I'm trying to drive him or pull him between my hunters at that time to make it so you know he's coming to me, because that's the thing. He's looking for me. He doesn't want anything to do with you. He doesn't know you're there, and that's the theory. We don't want him to know that you're there. As
If
the
he
hunter.
catches you moving a little bit, catches that movement, he doesn't like it. He hears all these cow callers, these bugles, and doesn't see any elk, and then saw a movement he doesn't like, he's out of there.
Yeah. So one more scenario that you kind of talked about works really well, but we didn't get to do it this week, is when you can have two callers. So how do you lay that out? Like what are you trying to do with two callers? If the listener does have the ability to have two callers, what are you really trying to? What kind
I
of
mean,
picture
like-
are you trying to paint there?
Like again, I said it's got to be each situation. It would be different. If the bull is down there and he has a few cows, and you can bugle and get him to answer you, then I can leave like Joel there to bugle, and we'll drop in. Maybe he's 150, 200 yards away. We'll cow call our way to him, and that's a really good way to do it because he thinks that bull's still up there bedded. And he thinks he's drawing these cows to him. So that's a really good way to do it. When he gets close, he's going to get up to come investigate. So you got to get just close enough that he doesn't see you and then set up and cow call. So he thinks we're hung up. So he just thinks you're cows and that bull's still 150 yards back there.
The cows have left the bowl.
Yeah, that's a perfect scenario. If you have a guy that can keep track of that bull, keep it bugling while you move in, then that's a really good way to do it.
Yeah, and we kind of tried that on day 4 where the bull did win this. We kind of tried that. You kind of stayed up further, and me and Aaron tried to just kind of slowly work towards that bull, and it worked perfectly. I mean, it was going to work perfectly if he hadn't winded us.
Right. It's worked a lot in the past for us that way.
Guys, Ace Outfitters, phenomenal week of hunting. I would 100% recommend them to anybody. Maybe not Joel, but Ace Outfitters as a whole. Daniel's worth the trip alone. Daniel's the camp counselor is what he calls us.
Camp
calls
host, camp
himself.
counselor.
Camp host, camp counselor, kind of takes care of camp. while
Jack
we're-
of all trades.
Jack of every trade.
Daniel Coleman.
Daniel Coleman. Go look him up on. He's everywhere.
He's a stud.
He's on social. He's on MySpace. You can find him on MySpace. Worth the trip alone. He keeps the dusty side up for sure. And if you don't know what that means, go back and listen to the other Idaho episodes. No one knows what it means, actually.
Nope.
I'll recap it for all the new listeners. We were in Idaho. I was in Idaho on a bear hunt years ago, and in Atlanta, Idaho. You ever been there, Joel?
I have not.
It's a
It's a beautiful place.
vacation destination.
Very small.
You should go there.
This is my vacation
All
destination.
all
He's on
7 people.
vacation right now.
All 7 people there are super welcoming. But we had come off the mountain and we were told that there was a little burger joint in Atlanta, Idaho. We could get a hot meal. So we go to Atlanta, Idaho. Have you heard this story?
I have heard the story.
Okay, good. And we have our burger and we leave, and there was this old man sitting on the front porch, real Merle Haggard looking guy. 2 p.m. drunk on on a Tuesday, and we talk to this guy forever, and we go to leave, and he just says, "You boys keep the dusty side up," and I'm like, "What?" Thought it was an Idaho thing, and so I ask everybody from Idaho.
Right? I thought it was keep the shiny side up myself, but
Yeah, which would make sense. Like keep the shiny side of your vehicle up, then don't roll your vehicle. But anyways, so I ask everybody in Idaho from then on out, like, what does this mean? They're like, that means you met a crazy old man, and I'm like, cool. So that's my that's gonna be my new tagline. I'm gonna end every episode with "Keep the dusty side up,"
I like it.
because it can mean whatever you want it to mean. I mean, it can mean it could be the worst thing you've ever been told, or it could be like have a good day. So, anyways, Ace Outfitters, where can they find you at?
You can find us on Instagram or my website's aceoutfitters.com. We're on a Facebook page, but mostly Instagram. We put a lot of content on Instagram, so you can watch a lot of our videos there, make a lot of reels, kind of recap our weeks of hunting on there. So a lot of guys watch that and kind of see what's going on out here.
Yeah. So, guys, stay tuned again. I want to have the elk hunt crew on to kind of talk about what we learned, what we liked, what we didn't like. That's when we can really run down Joel and just
I look forward to it.
tell all the
Go check us
negative
out on Instagram.
tell all the negative things about Joel
Ace
that we
Outfitters.
can't say in front of him because we're scared of him.
Right.
So stay tuned for that one. Also, stay tuned. June, we're gonna come back and kill some bears. We're gonna kill some spring bears here with Ace Outfitters.
Got to get this guy a bear.
Because why the heck wouldn't you, stud?
Why wouldn't we, stud?
Guys, when it comes to hunting and being outdoors, I believe there's one product that I use more than anything. That's not my bow. That's not my boots. It's not my anything else other than a binocular harness. If I am outside doing anything outdoors, I've got a binocular harness on. Whether I'm shooting, whether I'm hanging tree stands, whether I'm out hiking, it doesn't matter. If I'm outdoors doing just about anything, I've always got my binocular harness. Alaskan Guide Creations does it and does it very, very well. I've been using these now for about 8 years, and I absolutely love them. The new system with all the magnets are really good, really accessible, very customizable. Guys, if you're in the market for a new binocular harness, I would highly, highly, highly encourage you to check out Alaskan Guide Creations because they are phenomenal. Stay tuned for that. It's going to be a fun time, and we'll do some podcasts from there as well and hopefully kill a whole bunch of bears. But thank you guys for listening. You guys keep the dusty side up.
Field knocks me back on my heels, playing my heart like a pale steed. Her kiss is red hot like Bakersfield.